So my daughter this morning, I'm sure you saw my email. Yeah. Well, this is a pretty typical thing that happens in my household. My daughter has never really slept much past 6 a.m.
Wow.
Over break, sometimes during the week. And this is the key. During the week, Monday through Friday, her alarm goes off at about 6:40, 6:45 so she can get to school. But she will sleep in and she'll sleep through it. But on the weekends, no matter what, she will wake us up sometime before 6 a.m.
It's awesome.
And oh yeah. And so we've actually started saying to her on the weekends, please do not come into mommy and daddy's room before 7 or before the sun comes up or something to keep her either in her room or just basically away from us so we can sleep a little bit more. And people say, well, what time do you put her to bed? We put her to bed at 7:30.
Oh my gosh.
Which, yes, it's early, but trust me, she needs it because she gets up so early. Yeah. And people said, well, put her to bed later. We've tried that. We'll put her to bed at 8, 9, 10. We've put her to bed at midnight before, not on purpose. There was an event and we just came home late. Mm-hmm. She will still get up at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. in this case. It's crazy. So it doesn't matter what time she goes to bed. She's going to wake up at the same time. But of course, she's extra cranky if we put her to bed too late. So her bedtime is 7:30. It's this morning. And it's not just that she comes in. I mean, if she just came into our room, it'd be fine because it wouldn't be much of a ruckus. She would just maybe climb into bed and that would be the end of it. But we have both of our dogs sleep in our room. And the minute they hear someone come into the room, they're nuts. I mean, they're wagging their tails, they're hitting the walls, they're all over because they think that someone coming to let them go outside and get food.
And it's playtime. Yeah.
It's playtime. It's ready because they're still pups. They're only 3 years old. And and they're used to that schedule because my wife gets up at about 5:30 every morning. So it's just crazy. So that she climbs into bed or she comes over and she said, Daddy, can I climb into bed? Can I cuddle with you? And I looked at her and my wife is Peyton. It's 5:25 and it's like, it's 5:25 in the morning. Go back to bed. And I said, it's fine, but you can't make a sound and you can't wiggle because we have a king size bed, 3 people in the bed. It doesn't matter. Sure. Right. So she gets in the middle between us and it's wiggle, 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 sigh.
I was going to say.
Wiggle, sigh, wiggle, 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 sigh. And then I'm just done with it. So I get up and I go downstairs and I let the dogs out, feed them, and I climb onto the couch. I light a fire, climb onto the couch and get under a blanket and try to just catch a little bit more sleep. Yep. Wasn't 5 minutes later, clomp, 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 down the stairs. Here comes Peyton. Here comes my daughter, ready. Just, Daddy, can I watch TV? No. Daddy, can I play on your iPad? No. What can I do? You could read a book. You could do some artwork. You could
go back
on
to bed.
And on and on. She's like, I don't want to do. Yeah, you go back to bed. Oh, I don't want to do any of that. Oh, so it's just been a fun morning. And of course, I didn't go to bed until midnight. So I'm not that I need a lot of sleep, but I'm only operating on 5 hours of sleep for the last 2 nights. I don't mind
telling you, when you go to bed at midnight, you're a little cranky.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I was very cranky this morning. Well, not necessarily cranky, but I'm not willing to put up with as much. I'm not as patient.
Yeah. You need to start going to bed at 7:30.
I should. My wife does sometimes.
Does she? Well, I do too. Actually, sometimes I fall asleep on the couch. And that's the strange part about me. I can fall asleep after dinner. I'll have maybe a glass of wine or something, and I'll lay on the couch and I will zonk out. But if I were to go to bed, my wife says to me a lot, "Why don't you just go to bed?" And I say I can't because if I were to go up to bed, I would lay there for 4 hours. Yep. And not being able to sleep. And, I've tried to get on a schedule where I'm going to bed at 10 o'clock because I had to consistently get up early and I wanted to make sure I had plenty of sleep. And I will go to bed at 10 and I will lay there until 11:30, a lot of times midnight before I'll actually drift off. So I take the whole bed thing out of it. If I fall asleep on the couch or in my chair, I've trained my wife to just leave me there. And,
that's nice.
Well, because you know what? What's the point? I'm sleeping. It's fine if I wake up at 2 a.m. So what? No big deal. I'll crawl back on the couch, or I'll come to bed, or whatever. I've got choices. All right. So how's everything else going with you, mister?
Everything else is fantastic. The weather here has finally turned cold. And when I say cold, it's, Nashville cold, 40 degrees.
Cut it out.
So I did get to light a fire this morning, which was nice. I love a good fire. I would prefer one out in the fire pit outside, but, I do what I can. How about you?
You like cold weather.
I do like colder weather, yeah. So 40 degrees, even though it's not necessarily Midwest cold, it is colder for this area, and I truly enjoy it.
But you know what? So fireplaces. I'm glad you said that. I'm blown away by Florida, like condos in Florida or Arizona, and they have fireplaces.
Yeah,
come on.
My parents actually had a place in Arizona, just north of Phoenix, north of Fountain Hills. If anyone knows where that is, they had a fireplace. It was a beautiful fireplace, and I thought it was
well, of course, because no one ever used it.
No, actually, and that's kind of where I was getting it. Strangely enough, they did use it. They went down there in the winter. They were snowbirds. In the winter, at night, it gets very chilly in Arizona. So you do want a nice fire. True. It can get down into the 30s and 40s in some places, especially where they were. They were surrounded by mountains, and it got very cold. Now, it did warm up.
They weren't as far north as Flagstaff, were they?
No, not that far north. They were probably... Oh, and this was years ago, so I'll probably get my distances wrong. Plus, there's so much more construction there.
Oh my gosh!
They were next to. I'd say they were probably about 25, 30 minutes north of Phoenix City proper.
Oh, okay.
If I have my distances right, so they were in Phoenix. It was a golf community called Rio Verde, which. From my understanding of the history, or at least what I've been told, I don't know if this is true. I don't have any documentation that it was actually built by an auto group dealer from Minnesota, one of the larger groups. He wanted a place to stay. He bought a whole bunch of property, put in a golf course, and then built this community up around it. And most of the people that were down there, if you went, which was made you feel like home, most of them had Minnesota license plates on their cars. Awesome. Yeah.
Yes. Fit right in.
Which, of course, my parents did have a Minnesota license plate. So if they fit in very, very well. Yeah. But going back to that, it was very cold at night. So they did have a very nice fireplace. And I think it was well used. But now I do agree with you. In Florida, having a fireplace is a little strange because I've never experienced true cold weather in Florida. And I used to travel quite a bit to the Panhandle.
But I think it's all about perspective in Florida. You get 50 degrees. To me is I'm on the Harley, and maybe I'll wear a T-shirt probably, but that's about it. 50 degrees in Florida, they're bringing out winter coats that were in style 20 years ago because they haven't worn them since.
You make an excellent point. When we went down there to visit, we would be out there. It'd be 72 degrees and we're in shorts and golf shirts, and everyone else is wearing jackets and jeans and sweatshirts. Exactly. the people that live there, of course. You're absolutely right. It's all about perspective. And I think it is. Even my example from earlier, it's 40 degrees here. It's cold today. It's not cold from where I grew up, but it's cold.
Gosh, no. In Minnesota, that's T-shirt weather.
Yes, it is. Yeah. 50 degrees hits in Minnesota. I had my top down on my Jeep.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's the kind of perspective I'm talking about. So we are, and this is news flashiness. So my wife and I are looking at maybe building a house.
Are you really? Yeah, I think last time you and I had a conversation, you were considering it, but you hadn't made it. There wasn't any forward momentum.
We spoke with the agent about it, and so it's just the builder's agent who was great. I mean, she was very nice, and you get to our age and having built a couple of houses and lived in several others, you start to think about what stuff can I not live without, or am I not willing to live without? And one of them
back to our topic, was the fireplace. And,
I was going to say walk-in tub.
Wow, we're not quite that old yet, but thank you. I will put that on the list now that you mention it.
I'm just thinking about you.
You're wonderful. You really are. That's great. Yeah, and then maybe I'll get one of the spots on their commercials that they run too.
Oh, nice. I think you would. You fit in very well in those commercials. Absolutely.
It would have to be a large walk-in tub. But. So we're looking at several things, but things like countertops and, we don't want the builder grade, and no offense, because our first house that we built was builder grade everything. And so what I mean by that is it's, kind of your standard faucets and standard light fixtures and standard appliances and laminate counters and things like that. Well, after you've owned several homes, we've changed so many things in our houses that I'm not just going to lie down for the same standard stuff. So we're talking about upgrading everything, and that gets a little bit expensive too, but it's still better than doing, upgrades and updates around the house, as far as I'm concerned, the older I get. But when I was younger,
sure, we
used to do all of we've done everything from kitchens to bars to, stuff, drywall that you would normally consider to be maybe a little more than what most homeowners want to do. And so I didn't mind it when I was younger, but as I get older, I don't know, home improvement stuff gets a little, I'd rather have the pros do it if I can afford it,
I completely understand. The very first house I ever bought, I believe I was 25 when I bought it.
That's awesome.
I was very happy to do it, but it was in St. Louis, and I bought a true fixer-upper. When we walked in the very first time, this place was a disaster. It was horrible carpets, smoke-stained walls. It had not been cared for, but it was cheap, and I just thought it would be fun. And I tried to do all the work myself, and honestly, I owned it for 3 years. I did a ton of work. If you saw the before pictures and the after pictures, you would be truly impressed at the amount of work that was put into this house. But it was tearing everything out. So I tore things out or repaired walls. But as I was selling it, people would walk in and go, "Oh my God, this place is in horrible condition." Because I hadn't gotten very far. My wife and I decided before she was my wife to get married, and we were moving, and I needed to unload the house fast. So I put it on the market before I had put a kitchen in. So there was no kitchen. Before I had put up new walls and painted them. But I hadn't redone the bathrooms. My wife absolutely loves to tell this story. She would come to visit, and she'd go to the bathroom was right above the front entrance. It was a shotgun house right above the front entrance on the second floor. And there was a hole in the floor, and you could actually look down and see the front door as you were sitting on the toilet.
Well, that's nice because you could tell if you wanted to answer the door or not, depending upon who was there.
Exactly. So maybe that's why the former owner had it. I don't know, but it was a true fixer-upper. Now, as I've gone on in life, as after my wife and I got married, as we've expanded our family, we've never went to the extreme of the house that I had in St. Louis. But we've always purchased houses that need a little work, a little updating, and we thought, okay, we're going to do the projects. Never once have we ever sold a house when all of the projects have been finished.
Oh,
so
okay.
On the last house that we bought, the one I'm in right now, we finally got to a point. We're at an age now we can afford it. We're just going to buy a finished house. We're done. We were done with all the projects, with all the rehabbing. We never finish it. So we just said, you know what? They were fun for a minute. They're not fun anymore. So I completely understand where you're going with making sure that all of the things in the house are exactly the way you want them.
So of all the things that you've done and repaired and updated over the years, and it sounds like you've done like 2 things. I'm just kidding.
That's about it. Yeah.
Yeah. What was the biggest challenge but got you the best reward?
Oh, well, those are two different questions.
Well, no. Okay. Well, yeah, you're right. They probably, they are. Which one was the biggest reward? But it was still, I mean, I'm not talking about we changed the toilet seat and boy, it was rewarding. I'm talking about something that's more of a.
Well, someone was rewarded with that toilet seat. No, I would probably say, just in general, the biggest reward when we actually finished a project was just having something that was nice, that was finished. It was the way we wanted it. And because it was our blood, sweat, and tears, mostly blood, that went into it, we had something that was truly ours. So that would be the biggest.
Specific. Then, was it a kitchen? Was it a
no?
bedroom?
We've never been able to finish a kitchen.
So it wasn't a kitchen. Okay.
It was definitely not a kitchen. Definitely not a kitchen. No, I would say the biggest one that we ever finished, and the one that was most rewarding, we had a house that we sold in 2012, I believe. It was in Franklin, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Very similar, actually, to the house we have now, just not quite as finished. Two things I did in that house, and I think one of them I didn't do as well as I would have liked. The other one I think I did very, very well. There was this nasty smell in the kitchen, and we couldn't figure it out. And there was right off the kitchen was a bathroom, and just one day I was standing in the kitchen. I'm like, I just cannot. It was a very musty smell. It smelled like there was mold. That's the best way to describe it. It smelled like there was mold in the house. Mm-hmm. No water leak that we knew of, nothing indicating that there was anything in the wall or anything like that. One day I thought, you know what? I want to take the wallpaper off this wall and change it and do a few things to it. I'm just going to dig into it. No, I know what it was. There was a phone jack in the wall on that particular wall. I'm like, I'm just going to get rid of that phone jack and patch it. I took the phone jack out and I looked and there was mold in the wall. Oh, so there had been a water leak at some point that no one had repaired. And there was water in the wall. There had been. So I ended up starting to peel away. I had to replace the entire wall. And this was the first time that I had ever done an entire wall of something, because I've never built a house or anything. Most of my projects have been the smaller, a tile, change out toilets, some plumbing, a little bit of electrical, things like that. Never at this scale. So I had to take down the entire wall, both sides of the wall, completely clean off and get rid of any mold that was there, rebuild the wall and put up the drywall, repaint and get it all done. And that was the very first time that I had actually done something that big and completed it. So that was very gratifying for me. And then in the same house, there was some really bad tile in the front entrance. And so I pulled up the tile and there was some buckling in the floor. I don't know what happened to it, but I had to actually take up the subfloor and put down a new subfloor and retile. So I did that. And that was a project that taught me a lot, and it was a lot of fun to do. It took me about 2 weeks to finish the whole project because of work and things like that. But I got it finished, and it looked really, really good. It was probably the best looking part of that entire house at that point. So those are the two most gratifying. Biggest challenge was definitely that house in St. Louis. I had the realtor that I had at the time also rehabbed houses in St. Louis. This is something that's very big in that part of the city, very old city. The house was built in 1897. Wow. And it was actually one of the newest houses on the block. So if that tells you anything about that type of neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I went in there with the real estate agent and I said, in your experience, what do you think I'm looking at? And she said, buy it for this price. You'll probably put about $70,000 in it if you do all the work yourself. So we did, and we started tearing things out and started opening walls. And I found out that the former owner had purchased it as a burnt out shell and hadn't replaced a lot of the lumber in the walls. Oh. Yeah, it was so there was a lot of stuff that I had to pull out. And also I didn't understand the nature of how historic districts work when it comes to the city and the zoning laws and the permitting. Yep. So as I was trying to make the house livable on the inside, the city was coming to me and saying, no, now that you are the new owner of the house, you're not grandfathered anymore. You have to do this, and this to the outside of the house. Otherwise, we're going to start fining you. And I got fined heavily. I actually had a lien on the house when I sold it because the city had fined me so much. I had to pay an extra $2,500 to sell the house to the city. So I learned a lot, but it was definitely a massive challenge. So two things I would recommend, especially to a young person, if you don't have any experience building a house, because rehabbing a building in many cases are a lot of life. But if you decide to buy a house to rehab in a historic district in any city, do a lot of research before you do it, and do not live in the house when you're rehabbing, because that is, I mean, we were sick all the time. And it was just hard to live that way because everything's dirty and you really just can't find a way out of it unless you're doing a room at a time and can do your bedroom really, really nice and then just live out of your bedroom for a year. So how about you?
Which is great for having a hot plate in there. We make beans every night, and
beans and the little bar fridge or the college dorm room fridge. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
That's great.
Said no one ever.
No
so
doubt.
How about you?
Well, there are a couple. We one of the houses we built in Michigan was. It had an unfinished basement. So we spent all our time in this basement. And we would work out in the basement and do, just exercise. And it was big enough that I could actually run through the basement and I would run and I was in my mind devising this family room / bar that we were going to build. And so this was every morning, I'm down there, I'm running, and I was envisioning this whole thing, and ended up, we built it. We kind of built it the way that I was thinking through it in my mind. And everything from the bar was a half circle. And so I designed that, and we built it and did a back bar with cabinets, and in a separate room we had a dartboard and foosball table, and so we built it out pretty well, and it was very rewarding because when we sold it, the realtor said this downstairs is probably adding $25,000 to $30,000 to the value of the house. And we did.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah. We did almost everything. We had one of the builder apprentices helping with drywall because, as you know, after doing your wall, drywall can be either really easy and fun, or it can be pretty unforgiving. And for me, it's usually unforgiving. I mean, there's only so much mudding and taping that can cover up the lousy work that I do with drywall. So anyway, that guy helped a lot, and truly, that was a rewarding thing. It was a lot of fun, and fun to kind of see it after all those mornings of jogging in my basement. That doesn't sound like I went far, but I actually probably did a mile and a half. And so I was running in circles quite a bit, story of my life.
You're still doing that to this day.
Yeah, in my mind for sure, at very least. But that was good. And the next one would probably be in the house we're in now, our kitchen. And it's an open floor plan, so it opens into the family room. We had one hardwood by the front entrance, and then we had a different hardwood in the kitchen, and then we had carpeting in the family room area and carpeting in some bedrooms. Anyway, we changed out everything other than the bedrooms, which have their own hardwood that we put in separately. We changed out all of the different types of flooring for one hardwood throughout the entire family room, kitchen area, and an entrance too. It really made a huge difference.
I bet.
And so that was the first thing. We laid down that, and I built an island out of cabinets, but a big island in the kitchen, like Hawaii. Get it? And
do you call it Hawaii?
I do.
Hey,
let's put the stuff over
go
on
get
Hawaii.
A snack. Yeah, the snack is over by Maui. But hey, the beer is on the Big Island.
Beer's always going to be on the Big Island. You know that. So anyway, that was fun. But the island turned out great, and we it changed some things up dramatically from when we bought the house. And we've been in it for 15 years now, so it's pretty much done the way we want it to be. There are very few things that we would, and there are certainly some things we could do if you wanted to throw more money at it. But I think we probably reached the top of the market in value based on the repairs and the updates that we've done. So that may be part of the reason we're thinking too, this may be a good time to move on and build our own. Yeah.
Right. That's incredible. Well, two things. I'm going to take us off of subject a little bit here, John.
Sure.
Because two things, as I was listening to you, I'm full of stories, but one thing I want to tell something that's a little bit personal in nature about my family structure, which I'm actually, someone may not believe me, but I'm actually very proud of how my family is structured. And when I say my parents, I refer to two sets of parents because my mom and dad were divorced literally 2 weeks after I was born. So,
oh my gosh.
I've never had the traditional family unit that most people would be used to. And I'm absolutely fine with it. I'm actually very proud of how my parents, both sets, raised me growing up. So when I refer to my parents, I'm referring to my mom and my stepdad and my dad and my stepmom.
Well, and you've never known anything different either. I think that's something I'm taking away from the start, which, I mean, 2 weeks in, you had, I don't know what the time frame was, but you didn't have the traditional family anymore.
I'm extremely smart. I'm, double genius level. So I was aware of everything 2 weeks after I was out of the womb, but no, I'm kidding.
Double genius.
Double genius. That's how smart I am. I can double it.
I like it.
No. So you're absolutely right. And there's a long story behind both families, but I just wanted to make that clear. So when I'm talking about these two stories, I wanted to clear that up first so people knew what I was talking about when I talked about my dad versus my stepdad, so on and so forth. So one thing that stuck out is you said you've lived in that house for 15 years.
Right.
I have never once in my entire life lived in a house for, I'm trying to think what the longest period of time I've ever lived in a house is. Maybe 6 years is the longest.
Wow.
Maybe one of my houses with my mom. Now, not saying my parents haven't lived in houses that long, but I have never stayed in a house that long for even in married life. The longest I've ever owned a house is 4 years, but I didn't live in it the entire time. Mm-hmm. The longest that my wife and I have actually lived in a house is 3 years. So it fascinates me how people can live in a house for 15, 20, 30, 40 years. And yeah, I mean, it just fascinates me. It's crazy to me.
And it's an interesting point too. And because I want to let you continue, but we are not, I mean, this is the longest we have ever lived in. Now, when I was growing up, I lived in my parents' house for, 18, 20 years or whatever it was. But, for my wife and I, this is the longest we have lived in any house because we were the mover. I mean, we opened up offices around the country and with a company I used to be with. And so we were constant. I think we moved 15 times in the first 10 years we were together. And so, I mean, it was crazy. Wow. But the good part is we did not accumulate anything. So we could move in a weekend.
How do you manage that?
Well,
that is incredible.
You don't keep anything because that if you move, I don't want to move crap that we don't need. You know what I mean? So we've learned to, and now because we've been here 15 years, we've started to accumulate stuff. So I'm thinking a garage sale is in our future, but it's amazing how it changes you.
I keep threatening my wife with a garage sale, but it never happens. It's amazing. We accumulate, we downsize, we get rid of a lot of stuff, then we move into a bigger house, and then we get more stuff. It's crazy how that works.
Yes, exactly.
But again, we've never lived at this particular house, so it actually makes me feel better that you say you've moved like 15 times because as we've lived in Nashville, or having lived in Nashville as a couple, we have now moved. We've lived here now 11 years, and we have moved in to Nashville. Then we moved to a condo. So that was the second move. Third into a house, fourth into onto the property that we owned. fifth into another house. So this is our sixth house we've owned or lived in Nashville.
That's a lot.
And we do not want to move again. And so that's another reason we chose the house we did. We do not want to move. We want to try to get a few years under our belt. Our goal is to try to stay in this house until my daughter graduates from high school. That is our goal. Now, will we get there? I don't know. That is our goal at this point. So going on, that particular part is just fascinating to me. The other side of that is we were talking about challenges and rehabbing houses and things like that. My dad has now built 3 houses, I think.
Wow.
And when I say built 3 houses, you're talking about talking to a builder and building houses.
Yeah.
He might have had contractors with him helping him, but he built them himself.
Wow.
Blows my mind. The first one was a log cabin, and he lived in that thing for 20, 25 years. Then he built another house that was on top. It was someone had built the basement, and he built the house on top of it, and then also built a barn with an apartment. Probably hired people to do some of the heavy lifting, but he did a lot of the work himself, or was involved in a lot of the work himself. And now he has his house in North Dakota that he built from the ground up, obviously with help, but he did most of the work himself. He did bring in people to do cabinets and drywall and things like that, but a lot of the work he had done himself.
Amazing.
I can't even fathom that level of experience or that level of being able to do that as a part of my genes, because as I said, I can never finish a project, and that's just a simple project, let alone finish 3 houses. Boggles my mind. I definitely have more of my mom's genes in that instance, I guess.
I guess you do. Has your mom ever built a house by herself?
She has never built a house by herself. All right. She liked to hire people to do it for her.
I'm kind of on your mom's side on this. That is, and you're right. You watch, and we've talked a little bit about this too. We watch these TV shows where it's the, fixer upper, home improvement, or even those now they have those that are building off the grid and so on. And I'm amazed at this, but the problem is they finish these houses in 45 minutes to an hour, and you go, oh, this can't be that tough. Oh my gosh. It's truly got to be a labor of love. Otherwise you just wouldn't want to do it.
Yeah. We were actually, speaking of that topic, watching YouTube again this morning. We were watching, I don't remember the title, but I think it's Amish Home Builder. And it's an Amish family in Montana that builds log homes all across the country. And it's a 45-minute program, and we're just watching it, and our jaws were dropping watching how quickly they put these things together. It's incredible. But granted, they're leaving out a lot because they're building a house. They start in March and finish in July, which is actually a pretty good turnaround. That's pretty quick. Yeah. But still, they do it then, and they boil that down into 45 minutes or 44.
Right. With commercials.
Right. Not on YouTube. Well, sometimes on YouTube.
Wow. Yeah, definitely on YouTube. Unless did you opt out of the commercials?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, me either. Drives me crazy.
Yes. Commercials in general drive me crazy.
Yes, I know. But the YouTube ones, especially now, because they actually interrupt the content.
Yes.
And suddenly it's, what happened to the content? And it's gone. And it goes to a commercial. And I'm like, come on. Yep. You can skip the ad, yes, but still, and it takes you back. I'll give them credit. Takes you back in the content like a second before you left, but it's still so supremely annoying.
Yes.
But not enough to make me pay the money to, I don't even know what YouTube Red costs, or I don't know what it costs to delete the commercials. Do you? Yeah. Because I'm not doing it. So I have no idea.
It's you know what it is? It's a project. It's a project to get the commercials deleted. And we all know I don't finish my projects.
No, I was wondering, where's he going with it? Oh, then I saw it. Then I finally saw it. Oh, that's awesome. So what do you know? So you're in a house now that you said it's finished. So you don't have to do any updates or anything like that.
Well, we do have
Yep.
Just like you with your house, you did you build this most recent house, the one you live in?
No,
you've lived in for 15 years. Okay,
it was probably 10 years old when we bought it.
Okay, so this house is about 20 years old. There are projects. It has been updated. That's the biggest one. So the kitchen is updated. It has granite countertops, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It's very well done. There are projects in the house that we want to finish. Some that were accidents by me. For example, in our bonus room, that the ceilings are raked, and I was getting something. My daughter's play or toy chest is up in that bonus room, and I was actually cleaning the room and putting stuff in her toy chest, and I stood up really fast for some reason, and I put my head through the ceiling. So there's a big hole in the ceiling that I have to repair.
Why does this remind me of Christmas Vacation all of a sudden?
Oh, you just call me Chevy Chase. So there are projects and there are a few things, especially landscaping, that we have to keep up with, that we're brown thumbs. I think I've told you that in a previous episode. So it's a little bit more difficult for us. So we do have projects. I'm not saying we don't, but they're not major projects. They're projects that we can finish in a weekend.
Cool.
Instead of things that are going to take months.
And so that's with a 20-year-old house or so, and ours when we moved in, at least a 10-year-old house. Now it's 25. But when we built the house in Michigan, and that was our builder grade quality house, it was a spec house essentially, that we kind of were able to custom tailor a couple of things. But I was amazed at how much work there was still to do when you build a house. I mean, there were projects that we had to do, not just the basement that we wanted to finish eventually, but just stuff around the house. I put in a computer desk, for example, and a built-in one, and some other things, some painting that we had to do. It seems like there's always something, no matter what, even if you just built the dang thing, and it still needs work.
And we have talked about building in the last 2 or 3 moves. We've used that as a consideration. And that, in fact, when we chose this house, one of the reasons we chose this house, the building in this area has been, the industry itself has been booming. And when did we start the process? I think in May or June, and our goal was to be in a new house by the time my daughter, or at least close to when my daughter started school. We were moving from about 45 minutes away to about 5 minutes away or 10 minutes away. We did that. That's one of the reasons we were moving is to get closer to her school. We were looking at building, and the soonest we could get into a new house was December.
Oh,
so and we weren't looking at a custom home on our own property. We were looking in a neighborhood where they do it, and they usually do it fairly quickly. And the neighborhood we were looking at was one of the fastest, and it was still going to be. We went in there. Forgive me, let's back it up. So we went in there in April. It was at the beginning of April, and they said, "Yeah, we can have it up. We could have it up and ready for you to move into by the end of December." And that was just too long. We were just shocked. We were just like, we can't do that. So that's why we looked at an existing home at this point. But we still talk about building. And part of the thing that we wanted to do with building, which I think is probably a good thing we didn't do it, was because we said, yeah, we'll have them build it to a certain spot, and then we'll just finish the rest by ourselves. Yeah. That ain't going to happen.
Well, it depends. I mean, if the only thing left to do is, we had them build it and then we finished it. I painted the front door and that finished the house. Maybe I could see that. Maybe. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. And I've seen, you see people that do that, and somebody like your dad could do that because of his experience. But there's no way. The whole reason for us, at least at this point, that we'd want to build a house is so we wouldn't have to do any of that stuff. And I'd rather pay for someone to do it and do it right in the first place than me trying to, meander through it and learn as I go.
My father-in-law is a handyman and actually is just like my dad. He could build a house from the ground up. It would just be beautiful. Their house, they've pretty much priced themselves out of their own neighborhood because of all the work that he's done on the inside of the house. It looks like the Taj Mahal. It's an incredible house when you walk in. You wouldn't think so necessarily from the outside, but you walk in, you're like, holy crap.
Yeah.
There are people that would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to make their house look this way, and he's done all the work himself.
Wow.
It's pretty incredible.
Wow.
So I would probably hire him to come in and finish my house, because my wife and I we'd probably we put in some trim and maybe paint a wall here and there, and then we go, oh, we're done. We need someone else to finish it for us.
We'll be at the Marriott if you need us.
Exactly. Racking up those Marriott points.
I just can't get them out of my head. Got to have the Marriott points. And that, of course, when you said Big Island, I was automatically thinking, gosh, I could use some Marriott points to go to Hawaii. That would be brilliant.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Other stuff that I just remember the first house we owned, there was, it was mostly finished. There was a screen room, downstairs. So it was a split level. So there was this nice screen, and we loved the screen room. It was not a custom, like a 3-4 season room that someone would build for you. It was like somebody added it on. And, so it wasn't awesome, but it had a 30-foot above ground pool that I wanted no part of. Well, just not that it wasn't. So we tried to use it for the first summer that we were there. We moved in the spring, I think. And we thought, you know what, let's give this pool a try. But I fully intended to get rid of it because there was it was a really nasty ramshackle deck built around it. And there was without getting into too much detail, there was no door access from the house on the pool level, on the deck level. The only way you could access it would be to go downstairs, come out the screen room, and up some stairs, exterior stairs, onto the deck. To get to the pool,
crazy.
Which is stupid. Anyway, so spent all kinds of money trying to figure out how to manage a pool, because I had no idea. I was, so we opened it in the early summer, and it was just trash. The water was gross, and do we need to empty this? What do we need to do? And so I'm asking people and doing some research online, and found that you shock it, and so you have all these chemicals that you put in, and sure enough, the water. I don't remember if we drained it or not. I don't think so. The water cleared right up. I mean, it was beautiful. It was pristine water. After we shocked it with whatever this nasty crap was. Shock. I'm sure it was heavy chlorine. Yeah. But that's what it was. And so we finished that. That was great. We enjoyed it for, probably 2 or 3 months. And it was just such a chore to keep the water clean. Finally, I just said, this isn't going to work. We'd have friends or family over for a weekend, and I'd spend all day Friday trying to get the pool up to snuff. So, if the weather did hold out, we could hang out at the pool. And anyway, so long story short, ended up advertising the pool in some newspaper. I mean, this is years ago, so I think it was in the paper. And I said, you can have the pool for free, but you got to come and tear it out. And so I found a guy who did that. He wanted this. It was a 30 by 15 pool. So, I mean, it was big. And he tore the whole thing out and took it out of my yard. And then the following weekend, we demolished the deck, demoed the deck.
Nice.
And so we have this big dirt mound in the backyard. And anyway, long story, as I said, we then paid somebody to put in massive patio doors off the main level where they should have been from the start. And then we had them built a great big deck on the back and got rid of the pool. That in itself probably raised the value of the house by, $50 grand, just because it was so ridiculous the way it was laid out in the first place.
Yeah.
But,
well, and And real estate agents, at least in my past, I don't know about now, but real estate agents say a pool won't raise the value of a house. In some cases, it'll actually lower the value of a house.
Well, especially above ground, yes.
Right, right. My father-in-law did all the work himself. He put in a pool like that in their backyard and put up all the decking. I mean, it absolutely gorgeous. You wouldn't even think it's an above ground pool the way he's got it set up, but it's absolutely gorgeous, but does not add any value to the house whatsoever.
No.
And similar story, my stepfather, before I was even around, actually probably, I think, when did he move into that house? A year before I was born. He bought a house in Anoka, Minnesota. He bought it in the middle of winter and he looked out, it was right on the Mississippi, and there's the house, what he thought was a yard because it was covered in snow, and then the Mississippi River. And then when all the snow melted in the spring, he found out there was an in-ground pool. So he had a very similar experience to you.
Didn't know?
A little bit different.
Seriously?
He had no idea. At least that's what he claimed. He had no idea.
That's hilarious.
So he, but kept it for, I don't know how many years. I think my mom, I can't remember if she got rid of it before he passed away or right after he passed away, but she finally filled it in. It was concrete, so we couldn't move it. It was old. It talk about a lot of work. It didn't even have a drain on the floor, so we had to always constantly have a vacuum in there to act as the pump,
right,
in the bottom of the pool, or the drain in the bottom of the pool. So it was interesting. So very similar story, but he bought the house, I think, in 77 or 78, and the pool was definitely there until 2000 and. I want to say it was definitely there in 2006.
Wow.
And he passed away in 2007. So I don't, again, it right around there. So it was in the family for a long time. When I was in high school, that was part of my job, was to keep the pool clean when I got it away from my stepdad, because that was his favorite putsy thing to do, was to go and clean the pool.
I needed you guys.
Where's
at my
Murray?
place.
Oh, he's out cleaning the pool. So it was fun. So I'm very familiar with the chlorine shock.
Oh
I'm
my
very familiar
gosh.
with everything you're talking about, but it's not easy it is a job to keep it clear. It's fun when you get to use it, but it's a job to be able to do it.
Well, and
like you said,
again,
before every party,
anybody who knows and has done it and does it consistently, I'm sure it just becomes second nature. But when I had no intention of keeping the damn thing, and then not only that, having to learn on the fly about a pool I had no intention of keeping, it suddenly became a little bit more of a headache. But it was
pretty
great
intense.
on the weekends we used it, though. I'll say that.
Yeah. So the pool was concrete, like I said, and it was on the Mississippi River. The house was in a floodplain. There's a whole history to that house. So it could be a whole episode in and of itself, but it was in a floodplain, and 2 times while I lived there, it flooded, and it didn't get into the house, but the pool was below the house. So it got in the pool. Like, the pool was completely covered. I'll show you pictures someday. I might even post them on our Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, the places where all of our fan can come and check us out. Did you like that plug there?
I got it.
Anyway, so the water would go away. We'd have to clean up a few things in the yard and stuff like that. But the biggest project was going in the pool, draining the entire thing. And then, we would have to power wash it, get all the mud out, drain it, power wash it, drain it. And then we only did it once. We should have done it both times, but then we would have to sandblast the entire pool, which we didn't do ourselves. We had someone else come in and sandblast it. Then we'd have to have it repainted.
Wow.
It was way too much work, which is why, as my mom and stepdad got older, they decided at the end to fill it in. My stepdad had threatened for years. He's just every year, I'm just going to fill it in. I don't want to deal with it this year. And of course, it would stay open for the summer. Next year, I'm going to fill it in. So, yeah, it was big point of contention in that place. It was awesome. Loved it and hated it.
And especially without the drain at the bottom and having to go through all that stuff.
Yes.
I remember, and the house I grew up in was in a floodplain as well, right along, 50 yards from a little river. And you look at this place and you go, I know this is going to flood at some point. Well, our basement, at least twice a year, would flood. And my folks had learned, unfortunately, any carpeting we had down there, it was a small house, but the boys were in the basement of the house. That's where our bedrooms were and bathroom and so on. And,
it makes sense. Perfect sense. Put the kids down where it's going to flood.
The boys, yeah, especially the girls were up. My sister was upstairs in her own little pristine pink room or whatever. But, we were in the basement and it would flood, and it was not unusual when that would happen that I'd wake up in the morning and just spin out of my bed, and as my feet hit the floor, splash. It's the worst. Anyway, there's carpeting there, but they had rubber backed carpeting, so it was, it was more like rugs sort of, but cut out as carpeting pieces. We used to have to carry those things extraordinarily heavy when it flooded out into the yard and clean them off. And then, of course, clean the basement, the tile floor. And oh my gosh, it was just a circus. So flooding is not something. We are nowhere near a river in our house right now. Just FYI.
Yeah, we're at the bottom of the top of the hill, if that makes any sense. But we're on top of the hill. So
that's where you want to be.
I learned my lesson.
Yeah, the whole flooding thing was, especially with the pool, as you said. And you had to sandblast it when it flooded?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, we did. Like I said, we didn't do it one of the times. I think we didn't do it the second time. Mm-hmm. But you could see the whole time all the paint had faded away because we had to power wash it too. All the paint had faded away, so it was, instead of that beautiful blue color, it was a very light blue, almost white. Yeah, and then you could see mud stains on different parts of the pool, so it just looked nasty after that. So the following year, he had it sandblasted and repainted it again.
Well, today we have a kiddie pool for my granddaughter, and that's it.
That's the right kind of pool right there, my friend.
Yes, it is. It is perfect. It fits on our deck, and I just dump it out, and I've never had to shock it even once. Awesomeness. We have any other? We know we wore this out. We might as well admit it. We wore out we talked pools. We talked about some home improvement stuff. We talked about building bars. We talked about everything. Floods.
But John, just like every project that I start, I feel like we haven't finished, and I don't know why.
I think your definition of finished is the thing that needs work.
It could be. Maybe it's because I haven't mentioned, well, I have mentioned, but I haven't really pushed the fact that our listener can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. They can also help sponsor our little venture by becoming a patron on Patreon. Patreon. And now that we've officially launched, we are on iTunes and Google Play or Google Podcasts. I don't remember what the name of it is. I think they just changed the name. You can find us on Spotify. We're just all over the place. I'm hoping you can find us on Amazon too. Amazon just launched a new podcast platform.
I saw that you were rocking that. And so I'm thinking the whole time you said we're on iTunes. I thought that if I ever got on iTunes, it would be because you and I did, a song or we had an album or something like that. I guess we're going to have to work on that.
You're going to have to work on that. Yeah. There's no song coming out of this.
You could play.
I have a voice for silent film.
But you could play an instrument.
No, I can play the harmonica poorly, or the recorder. I can play the recorder a little bit better than I can play the harmonica. Have you tried the French horn? No, that's way out of my wheelhouse.
I just think there's a shortage.
My wife, played the French horn.
Oh, okay, there we go.
She was a French, before she became a band major. Is it major? Band majorette? Yeah, or whoever leads the band.
Yeah, majorette.
That's what drum major. Yeah.
But majorette.
So she,
that's the girl.
Majorette. Yeah. I played the tuba.
I did too for about 10 minutes.
I was really good at the tuba. The reason I played it, though, is I started band when I was in middle school playing the trumpet, and I pretty much flunked out of that class and went into choir, which I was horrible at. And they needed tuba players really, really bad. And they said, hey, I know you played the trumpet. will you please come back and just do the tuba? It's so easy. It's 3 notes. And no, it doesn't really matter if you're on key or if you hit the right notes, as long as you're on the beat.
3 valves. It's not 3
people.
notes, but okay, fine.
No. Literally 3 notes. It was like C, A, B, and that's all they said. Just learn those 3 notes. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. You just want to hear you go. Yeah, exactly.
So you played the tuba.
I did.
Well, but I mean, was it?
I want to make it clear, though. I'm not making fun of the Tubas. I'm not making fun of the people that play the tuba.
I played too, so you'd be making fun of me.
Musicians.
I don't mind.
Absolutely.
Was it?
Well, that's easy. I like to make fun of you.
Well, and it's easy to do. Did you mostly start though for all the women, for the babes?
Yeah, I played the tubas to get a date. Come on, John.
Hey, whatever works. I don't judge.
That's what hockey and football were for. You grew up in the same kind of place,
Tuba players got most of the hockey girls at some point. Well,
actually, strangely enough, there were 3 of us that played the tuba, and all 3 of us were hockey players. So yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
You never got injured playing the tuba, did you?
Well, that's a whole other story. That could be another podcast. But moving on,
it would be the ring finger. Yes, whatever. Fine.
We don't forget the tuba can be played wrapped around you in marching band. I did 2 marching band practices, and that was it. Yeah, sousaphone. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. You should know that.
It's a frickin' tuba.
And that's going to be the name of our next podcast, the frickin' tuba.
My mom used to walk around and make fun of me by saying, "Are you going to go play the tuba?"
Wow, your mom had quite a sense of humor.
She did.
All right, brother, we've done all the damage we can do here, I think.
Oh, we can do a lot more damage, but we will save that brain damage for another episode of PoddiMouths.
PoddiMouths.